Hello, everyone. It's my absolute honor to be with the the sharpest brains in procurement today. These are our next-gen CPOs, the emerging CPOs. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Big round of applause, please, for them. Look, what we're going to talk about are the forces that are shaping the world that we are living in within procurement right now, the forces that will shape us. Think of 20, 30, 4, 5 years down the line. And you'll hear it less from me and more from all these emerging leaders in the function. Okay?
Yeah.
So look, we want to talk about procurement, of course, but it's always good to step back and talk about the world outside of procurement, the business that we all come from. So maybe we could start with just you sharing the industries that you come from. What are the one or two big themes, the business drivers, the trends that are important, that are shaping the businesses that we're operating in? Maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ones, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, or it's really around the focus right now on deglobalization, regionalization, a lot of talk on friendshoring, and at the end of the day, this is going to take some time to settle, but we're all feeling it, again, no matter what industry, and quite honestly, whatever country or region you're from, so.
So deglobalization
is
your one theme. Annette?
Yeah, for us, it's a lot on supply security. We're seeing huge shifts in demand. We're seeing huge shift in capacities. Barbara speaking before about the storm that we are in. She spoke about VUCA and Barney, and that's totally what we are experiencing as well. So the landscape around us is very volatile. There's a lot of movements happening, and we are building resilience to remain successful in this.
So deglobalization and all the challenges around the supply
market challenges, right?
All of that. Okay, Julia?
Yeah, for us in Mars, it's the technological disruption that we are seeing, so the opportunity to really enter in this space. It's demographic shifts, and we are thinking about the future of work and how it will all change. And the last one I would call out is the climate change as well, and the regulations are tightening, but also we need to act for the planet, for our people, and these are extremely important to us.
So, Julia, you talked about technology. That was the first thing that you started off with. And technology, of course, all of these forces may have, they may be good for us. They may create issues for us. But technology is clearly one of those where we see more tailwinds than headwinds, right? So, but thinking of technology, can you think of anything that you would say is a change that is almost like a second-order change that we are seeing, that we should keep an eye on? It may not be very obvious, but something that we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I would think as a risk, potentially, we see that cyber security is becoming a second-order kind of emerging risk, and we need to be really vigilant in that space and partner better with the whole ecosystem. We see really examples already across our ecosystem of suppliers where we have some risks, and we need to work.
Supplier risk, particularly with respect to cyber risk, and that then cascading into our businesses.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Look, some of these changes, when we talk about them, some of these changes would impact procurement directly. To deal with these changes, businesses will count on procurement. We are in the front seat, whether we like it or not, right? Supply disruption, geopolitics, we're in the front seat. And then some changes, like, for example, technology, they impact everyone. Procurement is one of the functions that is impacted by these changes. So maybe we could take these forces and see how they're impacting procurement. We can go around the horn and think about how are these forces impacting procurement.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these forces, quite honestly, is creating a lot of risk in our supply chain, and we're seeing procurement organizations really consider making robust TPRM programs to really control some of it, mitigate some of that risk. And I think that's kind of the one thing where we're playing a significant role and a leadership role in.
Leadership role in dealing with the
TPRM, absolutely.
Okay. Annette?
Yeah, I have a different point. It's a bit related when we speak about technologies. We mentioned this one. There's a lot of cybersecurity topics. There's also a topic on technology innovation. There's a lot of focus, but there's a lot more behind this, right? There's a lot more also on process innovation. We also need to look into business model innovation, and last but not least, also supplier innovation, where we need to work with our suppliers on this being part of the business. So that is something I think also for us in procurement, it's super important to keep in mind and be active as a connector on those topics.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else to add, Julia, to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for us, we are having a strategy to double the speed and half the effort across our enterprise. So it's even going beyond procurement. We are looking how to automate, simplify processes, take out non-value-added work, streamline, make our associates' jobs easier. And yeah, that's what we think will be a big, big enabler.
Enabler. So if I were to think about the forces that are shaping the businesses that we are operating in and the role that procurement plays, at least what we are hearing from these emerging CPOs is that you all see procurement playing a critical, indispensable role for the business in navigating these challenges, right? So that's a great place to be in for us as a function. And the very fact that we could not, or do you think that there is a change that impacts your business where procurement really doesn't have a big role to play? Can you think of any of that?
Not at all.
Not at all.
So I find procurement organizations, and certainly the one at BMS, we are, engaged not only at core teams of enterprise programs, we are leading many enterprise programs. We've got seats on multiple leadership team tables. So I don't see a place where we're not playing a role.
Not being, okay. So maybe, Annette, a question for you, right, based on everything that you mentioned about, and you bring the right diversity here. We have two who have, they all have a rich experience across multiple industries, multiple categories, etc. But Annette, you drive direct materials at a CPG company. So maybe I'll start with you, and I'll go around, right? So, assuming that the forces that we talked about today persist for the next 4 to 5 years, right? All these geopolitical tensions, the deglobalization, the technology, all of this persists for the next 4 to 5 years. What do you think would be the expectations from procurement? If I were to think of a scorecard for the CPO, when in 3 to 4 years from now, when you are one of the CPOs in one of the organizations, and your scorecard, what do you think would be on that scorecard that is perhaps not there, or it's there today but not as big today that will become important later, or something that is there today that will become totally meaningless in 4 years from now?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fine line. Huh? We have two different areas of activities. So on the one hand side, we are very much driven by savings. That's a basic of a procurement organization, but we see this going in waves. So sometimes when, depending on the business, the savings is very much in the focus, then we are looking more into the top line growth. So it's ups and downs, and I would wish that this focus would go away one day and we would fully focus on how innovative can we be, how well do we work with our supply base, how good are we in really being resilient and managing our portfolio, and being sustainable, applying to regulations. So I think if we were able to go to this one, we were super successful. At the same time, I think we are also successful by having a voice, by being in the leadership rounds you were mentioning before. At Henkel, for example, we have integrated into the business in some parts, and we are part of the leadership teams and the excoms of the regions in the excoms of the board. So I think that is going in the right direction, and I would really hope that the focus goes again into this collaboration, into this managerial area.
Yeah.
Focus on, okay. Julia, anything on your side?
Yeah, I would add probably build on this, holistic value creation. I would love for us to be more, business thinkers along with our, leaders across the other functions, contribute actually maybe on even acquisitions and mergers more in the future when I think of the next few years, and really be co-creating the enterprise strategies as one of the key contributors the
key
table.
contributor to the enterprise strategies. Actually, Annette, one of the points that you made earlier, which is a very, very critical to, I think, the way you framed even the answer to this question, is that procurement is, of course, is and will continue to be a big contributor to the P&L of any company through our work that we do on cost savings, et cetera. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, that's absolutely, if that's what the business needs, we have to deliver that. But I think the point that you made earlier, which is very pertinent, is that innovation has to be defined very broadly and can be defined very broadly. I like the way you said, which is that innovation can be business model innovation, how we work with suppliers. Innovation can be process innovation, and it can be cost innovation. There can be many other flavors, right? So all of that should be on our scorecards, on your scorecards, in 3 to 4 years from now, right? So, and are there any KPIs that you see today that that excite you, or keep you awake at night saying, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this in the next 2 to 3 years?
Definitely one thing to just mention is, different industries, but what we're seeing as we've gotten to know each other through the preparation for this panel is we have the same challenges and the same focus. And I don't know if that existed, 5, 10 years ago. So it's quite interesting how no matter where you sit as a procurement leader, industry, it's almost becoming industry agnostic in many ways. So for me, the one area that excites me and the one area that as a result of that keeps me up at night because I really want to make sure we get it right is the improvement of the user experience.
User experience, okay.
So the user experience, we've been doing procurement for a while. I've been doing this for over 20 years. And when it comes to the user experience, there was always the talk of, can we create an Amazon-like experience? And, have we gotten there is the question. But the bar has now risen even further. I don't think it's an Amazon-like experience that the business is looking for. They're looking for a chat-like experience. So I think we're at a point as a profession, and you see all the innovation in the exhibit hall and all of the amazing kind of suppliers and founders here at this conference. We're at a point where we can get this. We can get this right, and it's a lot of hard work. So there's a lot of focus around cleaning up your data, making sure you're reinventing your processes, making sure you have the right workforce. So we have an opportunity to get there, and I think what excites me about the future is also what's keeping me up at night, because I want to make sure that before I retire, we get there. So.
No, actually, user experience is perhaps one of those KPIs that for the last 20 plus years, it has been in focus. But I think if I were to, those in the audience might have a different point of view, but my own grading of CPOs in general, like procurement in general, I think this is one of those areas where we have barely met, if at all, the expectations of our customers. So absolutely right that that has to be the focus. And actually, in this audience, you'll have some who are from the indirect side, some on the direct side. For indirect, user experience is not just about some feel-good metric, right, for our users, because the strategies that you come up with, if they have to deliver real value, users have to adopt those strategies, right? And that's where user experience becomes a value driver, right, versus this being. So Annette, on the direct side, how do you see, what is the KPI that keeps you awake at night and which
I hardly dare to say anything because you were so strategic and so much thinking in the long term when you retire. I had something so basic in mind. I actually was thinking about regulations. That's something being based here in Europe and working on the direct side. I mean, consumer products you have in your hands, you see on the shelf. That's really where we are hit, where we have a lot of changes that are coming. We have a lot of exchange in materials. We have a lot of obligations what we need to fulfill in the upcoming 5 years, and that is a big challenge. We are all committed towards that, and I think some of them are also super right, but it's not an easy task for any big company to make this happen, and that's really something where I say that keeps me awake at night sometimes. But then on the other hand side, it's also very exciting to see how we are collaborating with suppliers on that, how we are enabling suppliers in some cases, or how we learn from each other, how we really bring the objectives together. That is something which is exciting and where we all benefit.
So relationship management.
It's relationship, and it's also working on future readiness of suppliers. That's
suppliers.
super important as well.
Actually, we should probably come back to that because that's
we
an
can do that
important
later.
point, which is around readiness of suppliers. In this whole thing, because our success, our future is largely dependent on how good our supply base is, and we have a two-way street there in terms of suppliers giving us whatever we need, but we also shaping them, right? So we'll come back to that. Julia, anything on this question of things that keep you awake at night?
Or short.
Yeah, well, I can probably talk long about resiliency, but what I can say, what keeps me awake at night is efficiency, and today, perhaps 80% of the time, our teams are really firefighting along with the business, to get things through our systems, and process and so on. So I would like to have it streamlined, and actually we are measuring now. We start to measure the capacity that we create and the bandwidth we free up for our people. I mean, we are at the beginning of the journey, but we want to go fast, and we want to really deliver back this commitment to our teams so that they could actually work more on these value-added activities that I was talking about, and spend more time actually out in the field collaborating with our suppliers, with our stakeholders, and to get there, we need to free up their time.
Because you brought up the topic of efficiency, and you also earlier brought up the topic of digital, so let me stay with you and ask you this question. So assume that all these buzzwords that you hear, and we're a digital procurement world, so we hear, every second, every person that you meet up with, there's a new buzzword that gets thrown at you, right? And let's assume that all those buzzwords are true, they're real, and they all will stay till 2030. What is the value that you want digital to deliver to you as a function leader, and to your business that will truly make it worth its while? That will make the digital investment valuable to you as a function leader and as a business leader.
Well, I have a list. But if I have to pick one, I'll probably pick data quality foundations, making it really solid. We are struggling a lot in that space, and there is a lot of technology that is emerging, but still it's just a hard battle to fix the foundations for us and to fix our data. And that's a prerequisite, because when I think about all the things that appear on the market, integrated workflow, etc. I mean, it's already there. It's starting to be. But if you have garbage in, you will have garbage out, right? So we need to have the data right.
We need to get our data foundations right, and that's where, on top of it, will sit all of this. Will sit all these fancy, tools. We'll come back to data in a second.
We have the same problem.
I'm not surprised.
No, just that it's the same problem.
Anything?
No. Just wanted to confirm that you're not alone as far as kind of the data and trying to get that to a place that creates an optimal experience at the end of the day for our users.
So we'll come to data, because I think that's a big question. And every time I have talked to senior leaders in procurement, and I talk to them about digital, they all say that, yeah, this is all great, Shashi, but I struggle with my spend data, I struggle with my supplier data, I struggle with my contract data, I struggle with my category data. So the list goes on and on and on. And I think that clearly is an area where, if there are service providers here, they should be listening. I think that's an area where you will need to, any help you provide, I think you'll see leaders saying that that's an area where they're really looking for help, right? So some business themes maybe for
call to action.
All the call to action. But I think the other aspect is the efficiency gains that we as procurement makes. There's also a demand from business, as we all talk, that there are these major forces that are happening, and they want procurement to be more at the table, getting involved in more areas. We don't have unlimited. Your CPOs are probably looking at budgets that are either flat or declining. So where do they get that extra capacity? That will come from those efficiencies, right? And that's another reason why digital is so critical. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's, who wants to continue getting that call of an invoice isn't paid, or don't have a purchase order, or don't know where a contract is in the system, and the escalations, and because it still happens.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us that have been doing procurement for as long as we have want that to continue. So that efficiency will just free up our time to be more strategic partners to the business and better advisors, and quite honestly, better clients to our suppliers. So we need to spend the time with our suppliers because our suppliers are coming to us with numerous ideas. I led a supplier summit a year ago, and the underlying kind of goal, of course, was to get cost efficiencies in our third-party spend. But we went about it in a very unique way. We had our CEO, our CFO, business and leaders talk about our business, our challenges in the industry, and it really brought those suppliers, and many of them have shown up really well for us. They've independently come to us with opportunities for cost efficiencies. They've put back on the table ideas that they may have brought to us in the past that we said no to. A lot of times suppliers will feel like if you said no once, it's no permanently. So we were encouraging them to bring back ideas that we may have said no to because it is a different time, and no yesterday might be yes today. So that's where I think we want to play as a procurement profession, and certainly not chasing POs or invoices or payments.
And that probably could be the other payout, right? So you invest in digital, you get this capacity out of procurement, which then gets reinvested into areas that senior leaders are today not able to staff because they don't have the capacity. Actually, Annette, one of the other themes that comes in my conversations with senior procurement leaders, particularly those who are supporting supply chains, right, is integration. So they bring up data, and the second thing, and once we've passed the data discussion, they talk about, hey, but Shashi, all these tools are working in silos.
Yeah.
When are they going to connect with plan? When are they going to connect with manufacturing? So could you speak a little bit to the integration side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. But let me make one comment before, because it's also connected to integration, because what you said was super interesting. When having more time for our suppliers, we did something interesting where we were building ecosystems with suppliers which work in the same chain, which work on the same product in the end in different parts. And when we all got together, we built an ecosystem, and we were holistically looking into where can we optimize, how can we get better pricing, what can we do in terms to change our products with still serving the customer needs. So that is something super successful. And then coming to the integration, because doing this, you also need to be integrated. You need to be speaking to your supply chain. You need to be able to understand what is happening in a plant before, otherwise how would you be able to judge if the supplier is a great idea or not? So it's a knowledge, and it's also a system integration. So if you do not anticipate years in advance how the business will develop, then you will very likely not have the right capacities in place on the supplier side as well as in the plant. So that is something where we need to get the system support, but we also need to get the good understanding from the business side on where are their strategic priorities, where are the areas of development, and then us translating into what does that really mean. So there is great potential. I think we are moving forward. The master database is getting better, not being great. But this is really a lever where I think we can do a lot more and be a lot more successful.
Now, actually, just in this discussion, while this was not planned this way, it just struck me that, when you think about, and for many of the service providers who are probably in the room, if you were to think of selling to a large organization like a Henkel or a BMS or Mars, I mean, there are three essential requirements that perhaps you may have overlooked. I think the first one, which we touched very briefly, was around security, right? I mean, any solution that does not meet the security requirements of these large enterprises will not even make the first cut, right? So that's the first part. The second is the ability to deal with the data complexity that many of these organizations have, because without that, it will just become a point solution that looks good, but doesn't deliver the real value. And the third is the ability to integrate across multiple, because all of these companies come with a very, very diverse and very complex landscape, and therefore the ability to integrate with other areas, right? So it's a good insight just from this discussion. So in the 4 or 5 minutes that we have, can you think of maybe just one headwind or a tailwind that you see as we go into this, as we evolve into the function of the future? What do you think is holding us back, and what is it that is accelerating us? We can go, anyone.
Well, I can go first. I think in terms of tailwinds, so what's going to enable talent, is our big enabler in the organization. And when I think about our future talent or 2030 talent strategy, right, we need to inject more business thinkers. And we need to inject more, tech fluent, digitally fluent talent in our organization to accelerate. And I'm always thinking we can sacrifice, some of the traditional procurement pedigree experience and just, pair those newcomers or talent that we inject with the, ones that know the function and have this team of teams concept where they could partner together. We really need to break through because we have all the different kind of, generations of people inside the organization, and we have just a few, I think, that are digitally fluent, but that's the future. So that's where I'm like going, how do we create this capacity for business thinking, but also continue digital acceleration?
So you
I
would
think that's an interesting point, because on what
Annette.
on the topic of this digital mindset, because it's also, you will need this digital mindset on the one hand side, but then again, you will need to bring the knowledge on the more traditional procurement capabilities also to the younger people, which maybe have a different mindset and have different expectations. So here, creating some kind of mentoring, reverse mentoring programs, transferring the knowledge, really bringing those different schools of thought together, I think that is very beneficial and something we should reinforce even more.
Totally.
I mean, obviously, we can sit here and talk about talent for a long time, and a lot of my team is here and probably listening in from the U.S. The talent is really needed to, take the digital innovation that's happening for us to be able to see it through, and we're seeing that. We're seeing folks show up in a more vulnerable, more empathetic. Definitely, they're more curious than I think they've ever been before. So we've been encouraging folks to ask for help, really kind of test things out, spend time, just kind of playing around and seeing where you land with some of the tools and some of the, quite honestly, our company has done a phenomenal job of giving folks access to learning and development, AI related, and, they're asking us to use it, and they're, setting aside time to make sure that we're getting involved, and, people are sharing. I tried this on Copilot, and have you tried this yet? And, it's fun to start having those kinds of conversations that, quite honestly, we hadn't been having for a long time.
So consensus across three of you that it's talent, right? And the flavor that I'm hearing is that if you think of business acumen, procurement excellence or procurement knowledge, digital acumen, and then the soft skills or the real skills, there's a shifting of weights away from procurement excellence. Not that it's not important, it is still important.
Right.
But you would move it more towards business acumen, digital acumen, and the
curiosity.
the curiosity, the other softer skills. And procurement excellence is still important, but it's sort of lesser weight than what we had given it in the past. Right? Perfect. So we have just this last few minutes remaining. So is there any one thing that you would say as, here is the one thing that I would want to do right now so that I'm set up for success as a CPO 3 or 4 years down the line? What is the one thing that you would do right now?
My one focus is being a connector.
Connector.
Being a connector. Being
loud, bringing ideas forward.
Being loud, fantastic. Julia?
Long-term digital strategy and getting the funding for it, which is long-term.
You're a smart CPO. You're getting the funding now so that you can succeed when you take over. Perfect. Thank you very much.